Welcome back to Two Guys in the Bible. Glad you are joining us today for another episode of TGATB.
It's a very long, what do you call that when you put it together?
Acronym?
Yeah. It's very long.
Yeah, it is kind of long. Two Guys in the Bible. My name is C.A. Middleton, pastor of Lake Athens Baptist Church. Who are you?
I'm Cody Coleman, pastor of Parkview Reformed Baptist Church. Here we are.
Another week, a new week. We survived the snowpocalypse of 2021 here in East Texas.
People are putting that thing on Facebook, like 1 week in Texas, and the temperature was 4 degrees yesterday, or a week ago yesterday.
Yeah.
It was 70-something. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Our electricity was out all night because of thunderstorms. Now we have like summertime thunderstorms and hail and winds.
So you survived the
Our electricity
winter storm.
never went off.
But then you get
in the winter apocalypse, but this it did. Anyway, we are glad to be here. Glad you're joining us. We got a few things to talk about today, Cody. A few big things. So what's on the agenda, man?
Well, first we want to talk about the pastor in Canada, James Coates.
You know, I always forget Canada exists until something happens up there.
It's like Canada usually is pretty quiet, and then it's in Edmonton, and it's Grace Life Church in Edmonton, Canada. And I have some information that's from some members, or from a church member who's actually a part of the church. So, the information comes directly from them. So, he was arrested for meeting.
Right.
Well, he had been meeting for some time. It is not as though he just started meeting all of a sudden. But Canada's got some of the most unreasonable restrictions. Like, for instance, in Canada, let's say your daughter, you're an older couple, 50s or 60s, your daughter and husband live across the street. Her husband live across the street. They cannot come over to your house and have dinner.
Yeah. That's what happens when totalitarianism is the flavor of the day.
So this pastor decides he's going to meet. He's going to continue to pastor his
he's going to be biblical?
Right. He's just going to have church. He's just going to tell the government, this is not your lane. Stay out of it.
Right.
This is not your jurisdiction. You're not the head of the church. Jesus is the head of the church. Be quiet.
Yeah.
He didn't say it like I just said it. He probably did it much more.
But through his actions, he's saying you have no authority here.
Right.
I'll have to obey God rather than man.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what began to happen is the health service inspectors and police started interrupting their services. They'd come to the services. Here's what's ironic. This guy in this email says that it's actually against Canadian law to interrupt church services.
Not when there's
even by the police. So they started fining him. And so for the past 12 weeks, he's been fined $1,200 a week.
Yeah.
The pastor has. And then he was arrested once on the spot, but then released. The cops actually did not want to detain the pastor because the pastor and the church have been so exemplary in their love and support for the police. They actually gave him a standing ovation in the church for their service as police officers.
Wow.
And so
so it's not like they're anti any kind of authority,
right,
or anti-police or
exactly.
anti anything else. They're trying to be a faithful biblical church, and
right.
He's trying to be a faithful biblical pastor.
Right.
They're not trying to create unnecessary drama or saying, "Oh, look at us, we're being persecuted." They're just trying to be a biblical church.
Right. And so here's where I think they were extremely reasonable, okay? So they had like 472 people at this last church meeting where he got arrested. And so people are starting to come from all over the place because, it's getting a little bit of news, but also it's a place that they can go because nowhere else is.
Church people want to gather with.
Right, so they find a way. So here's this side note that he writes because I was interested in this. Under the current restrictions, it's illegal to host any type of in-home social gathering. So that removes, hey, why don't you just have smaller group meetings in homes? Can't.
Yeah.
Because of these restrictions. This is where I was telling you. It even includes us from having single visitors or relatives inside our home. So small home gatherings aren't really easy or a legal option. Here's another. Well, why don't you just meet outside? Well, currently it's negative 30 degrees Celsius. Kind of hard to meet outside.
Yeah.
In that weather.
Yeah.
And so, what is negative 30 degrees Celsius?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Doctor? I don't know if that has anything to do with being a medical doctor, but okay, here we go.
I speak American, all right?
So, you have a whole an area in Canada where for an entire year most churches have been closed.
Yeah. And really handcuffed from doing anything.
Right.
Other than maybe streaming a sermon.
Right. So, I think we have to understand something like, we live in the promised land of Texas, right? We're shocked that there's like one or two churches still not meeting. We're like, what in the, But there is a large majority of churches not meeting in Canada.
Yeah.
Not happening. And so no wonder a church that's open, people are coming and gathering because they want to be with God's people.
They have that desire to be with the people of God on the Lord's Day.
And so he was asked, this is good. He was told on the Sunday to call in and turn himself in on Monday. He went at 9 a.m. and turned himself in.
Yeah.
So he did not submit to authority.
Right. He is obeying the governing authorities when they're not telling him to violate or to disobey God.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are telling him to disobey God, he's obeying God rather than man. He's being a biblical pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's really frustrated me with this whole story is how many pastors have come out and attacked him for his character and for what he's doing. Like, he is actually being a biblical pastor here.
Is it the Gospel Coalition?
The Gospel Coalition is so gone. If you still follow the Gospel Coalition, stop. Unless you just want to read their articles to see how crazy they're continuing to get. But the Gospel Coalition is gone.
So here's the conditions. The conditions for his release. Why does my phone keep doing that?
Because you have a Nokia.
So Pastor James, the condition for his release were such that they wanted him to forgo his pastoral duties / ministry until his court hearing in March. And so the pastor said, I can't agree with those. That would violate my convictions and duty as a shepherd to the flock. And so, and he was actually secretly brought before a judge, and the understanding is that he was denied release.
Yeah, so, again, he is being kept. Bottom line, he's being kept in jail for doing what the Bible commands him to do.
Right.
I mean, that's...
by an authority that has no business telling them what to do.
Right. It's just... this is an example of modern day Western civilization's Christian persecution. Mm-hmm. It just is. And I'm sorry, these pastors that's come out against him and said that he should have taken other steps or he could have done something else. I really have no respect for that at all.
Well, he'd already taken steps. Like my understanding was that they didn't just flippantly go about this.
Right.
I mean, that whole argument is so utterly ridiculous to me. And really, it's easy to sit back and be armchair quarterback when you're not in the position.
Right.
No one's coming to your church or my church in Texas and telling us anything. I mean, Texas is like a refuge. If Texas and Florida are like refuge during this COVID stuff, right? It's like we just do what we want,
Yeah.
I mean, and we're thankful for that.
Yeah.
I am thankful that I don't have to worry or be concerned about any of that stuff. So it's so easy for people outside of that situation to look in and try to, because I was initially just thinking to myself, well, why didn't the guy try this small home group thing to avoid any of this? Well, he can't. He can't do that either.
Too.
And so
do anything.
And seeing and understanding a little bit more about him, he's obviously a thoughtful man, and he didn't just go about this just without any sort of real thought and care and concern. And we need more men like him that are willing to.
To be biblical pastors.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do.
Because we need less men who are cowards and who are bowing down to all the woke political nonsense of our day. And we need men who are going to stand up and fight.
Yeah.
And fight back
and he's
in the way that's biblical, right?
Yeah.
He's not using weapons of warfare that are not biblical.
Right.
He's using biblical weapons of warfare.
Yeah.
The worship of God.
Yep.
So I just think that we need to pray for him, and that's how we can probably support.
I found it interesting that the week after he's arrested and goes in prison, the church explodes with visitors that next Sunday to come support that church and that pastor, and we should be supporting them. Prayer mainly.
Because he still sits in jail. So think about John the Baptist. What did John the Baptist do after he'd been in jail a little bit? So we got John the Baptist at the beginning. He's like, "Hey, that's Jesus.
Right.
That's the Lamb of God who's come to take away this." He's like humble. He's pointing to Christ. He's all about, and then all of a sudden he
went to jail because he spoke out against the sin of the
right.
Of
and then
Herod.
He's in jail for a while, and he's like, "Hey, will you go ask him if he's really the Messiah?" Why do I bring that up? After a good time of being in jail, right, we can become discouraged. Despair can set in. So we need to pray for this pastor, and it should remind us to pray for other pastors who are also in jail in other countries for their faith, that they would endure.
Yeah.
They would continue on, they'd press on, and then we just need to pray that we would have the grace enough to do the same thing in face of the same thing, because it is eventually coming.
Yeah.
Which is what we're going to talk about next. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that little thing?
Step.
What's that called?
Segue.
Yes, did that.
Segue into our next.
And then I just ruined it by talking about that I did that.
Yeah, you ruin a segue when you say, "Hey, that's a segue."
That was a great segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, yeah, but it is. The next item on the agenda for today is this Equality Act, Cody. This Equality Act that has now
I have to be careful because I want to call it all sorts of other things.
Been introduced. And didn't the House vote on it, or they're in the process of voting on it or something?
Mm-hmm. Can I do...
H.R. 5. Yes.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Real quick. Listen. For all of the evangelicals all last year that wrote all their little intellectual virtue signaling articles on the Gospel Coalition and every other place about don't be a single issue voter, I just want to ask, how's that all going for you now?
Yeah.
Because they have a responsibility to bear.
Yeah, they do.
Because of their platforms, they mouthed off and they said all this stuff, knowing this wasn't like this was hidden.
Right. It's just been in front of our faces for a long time.
He said he was going to do it.
Yeah.
And now you have the ERLC all concerned about this Equality Act. You weren't concerned about anything when you were basically telling everyone to vote for Biden.
Yeah.
So that was just my little.
That's it.
That's it. That's all
Okay, that's it for today.
See you guys.
Stay away from the Gospel Coalition and anything the ERLC says. That's pretty.
That's
accurate.
probably good counsel.
That's pretty accurate this day and age. But anyway, what is the Equality Act, Mr. Coleman? With a K?
Basically, if you know anything about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, whatever, all of the areas in which that act was made law is you will now have the same things for the LGBTQ people. So here's the difference. You had people based on the color of their skin that were experiencing some discrimination.
Right.
Very outward. And they said this is not right. So we need to make it right.
Yeah.
And the government and people push this act, and now you have equal opportunity. Now, my thing about that is it kind of went too far in some places, and you have a little bit of reverse racism that begins to happen in the name of being equal. But neither here nor there. So that's a different thing. A human being that has a different color of skin was experiencing some they weren't immoral people.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
They weren't being discriminated because of an immoral thing
They
they
were
were
being
doing.
discriminated against God's creative design and order.
Right.
You
And
know,
now what
not
you have,
because of who they.
now you have a group of people who are sinning,
Right.
who are in sin, and we're saying they need to have all of the same rights for their lifestyle that's sinful. Which is your arguing is, I just want to know how they're being oppressed in these areas.
Yeah,
I don't know any of that.
Here's a paragraph. What is the Equality Act? The Equality Act would provide consistent and explicit non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people across key areas of life, including employment, housing, credit, education, public spaces and services, federally funded programs, and jury service. Now, I have to pause there and just say that is the language that's out here in front of you. Mm-hmm. It's all about employment and housing and credit and education and jury service and all this other stuff. But no, it's not, because all American citizens already have full access and protections for all those things. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you are. No one is stopping somebody who identifies as LGBTQ from a good credit score. No one's persecuting them and not letting them to have the same education as others. Or, I mean, it makes no sense.
So you made a great point. That's what's being said out.
Yeah.
In the front, in the public eye, this is what's really going on. You can do that whole link sharing thing at the bottom of this thing, and I'll share this with you, and then you can share it with them. The Heritage Foundation put out 11 myths, and then they said, here's actually what they are. So the 11 myths that they're putting out to the public. This is what they're saying. Well, like one is, the Equality Act simply punishes discrimination against people who identify as gay and transgender. That's what they say. It's just simply punishing people who do that.
Okay.
So here's the fact. The Equality Act introduces H.R. 5 in the House of Representatives, makes mainstream beliefs about marriage as well as basic biological facts about sex differences punishable under law.
Yeah, so basically, if you truly believe in your biblical convictions that marriage, by definition, and it is the union of one man and one woman, you are guilty of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, this drives me nuts.
But what they're basically telling us is the government has mandated what we're to believe now. And it will be against the law for you to believe differently.
Yeah.
And so this affects the church because eventually they will hear men through YouTube, through Facebook, or just maybe coming into your church. You speak out against that. And if they want to, they can take you to the authorities for that.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's going to be much more prevalent in the people that are in local churches in their daily lives.
Right.
The doctors, counselors, teachers, every area. Teachers are going to be forced to teach these things. Doctors are going to be asked to perform surgeries and things and write prescriptions for things that they do not believe is right. And if you don't think that like they're going to throw abortion in here somewhere.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's all going to.
Yeah. All their godless agendas coming together.
Yeah. And so, we could just run through the Equality Act preserves religious freedom. This is what they're going to tell.
No, it doesn't.
This is what they're going to say. Here's the fact. The Equality Act guts the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and threatens constitutional freedoms by eliminating the conscience protections from the Civil Rights Act. If enacted, this would force employers, medical professionals, educators, and religious organizations to allow men into women's shelters, pay for or perform sex change operations, and engage in speech that violates their conscience.
Yeah.
Faith-based adoption and foster care agencies would be forced to violate their belief that every child deserves a mother and a father.
Yeah. Yeah, see, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And right now it looks like it's headed for law.
Yeah, it'll pass in the Senate.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have and you know what? Kamala Harris will not have to be the tiebreaker.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That's what's going to be sad. It's not even going to be a 50-50 thing,
Oh, no.
and she has to make the decision.
Right.
There will be a bunch of coward Republicans that'll, this is so great. Just,
Yeah.
And they'll walk right across the aisle and vote for it, and then whoever that is, you should turn around and vote against them.
Right.
So
keep going through these. This is
okay.
good stuff.
The Equality Act does not expand the scope of federal civil rights laws. That's what they're saying.
Well, yeah, it does, because originally, like we said, these civil rights laws were put in because people were being discriminated against basically how God created them, which is unjust and immoral and wicked. So you're applying the laws that were passed for true protection of people that were guilty of no wrong, and applying it to this weird world, this godless world of the LGBTQ.
Well, here's where he says it. The fact is, by expanding the definition of public accommodations, they've expanded the definition of that. So, like under the Civil Rights Act, any establishment that provides a good service program, including a store, shopping center, online retailer, service provider, salon, bank, gas station, food bank, service or care center, shelter, travel agency, funeral parlor, establishment that provides health care, accounting, or legal services. What gay person is being oppressed by their accountant?
I mean,
Many more individuals and establishments would in fact become liable to discrimination claims, including doctors who do not perform abortions.
right. So there you go.
And this is what they say. The Equality Act is irrelevant to abortion. Well, not really. The Equality Act opens the door to taxpayer funding for elective abortions, which the vast majority of Americans disapprove of. The bill does not contain any conscience protection for those with moral or religious objections for paying or performing abortions. It also takes away any judicial relief by blocking the claims that are based on this. The Equality Act expands the term sex to go far beyond the state of being male or female and includes pregnancy, childbirth, and related medical conditions.
Yeah.
So, abortion will be in that as well. The Equality Act is good for women.
Well,
and
you have to put that in there somewhere.
And upholds, what is it, Title 4 of the Education anyways, basically they're trying to convince us that this isn't going to have a negative effect on women.
Okay.
Except for the dude.
A dude that's in the MMA ring against a woman.
Yeah, or the
high school boys
that can't beat the boys in track, but he'll go down to the girls and beat all the girls, and then the girls don't get their scholarships.
Yeah, I was proud to see a bunch of high school aged girls come out publicly, I guess a day or two ago, and to talk about how high school sports are being destroyed. Or high school women's sports are being destroyed by all the boys coming over there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
safety and privacy in sex-specific spaces will not be diminished. That is such a lie. Because they're telling you cannot tell a man not to go in that bathroom.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're going to tell you that they're going to be safe.
That is a violation of somebody's civil rights if you do that now. That's the whole. It's just ignorant, and it's wicked, and it's immoral.
I mean, there's 11 of them. The Equality Act treats all students fairly, promotes inclusion, and cannot affect school curricula. Yes, it does, because they're going to force people to teach this,
They already are.
and you can't teach any other view.
Right. They already are. Did you see where Rand Paul was grilling Biden's pick for assistant health secretary about? I mean, he point blank asked him like 3 or 4 times. Do you think it's okay, sir, for a young child, apart from parental consent, to take puberty blockers or to go in and have their genitalia removed? Right? And he just wouldn't answer the question.
Right.
Like he's dancing around. He asked him like 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. And I kept giving him a chance after chance, but he wouldn't answer the question. I mean, that is just wicked and immoral.
It is.
But if this passes,
right,
then
this is Katie bar the door.
Yeah.
Doctors will not be forced to perform sex change operations or prescribe hormones for gender affirmation. Yes, they will, because someone will come in, the doctor will say no, and they will turn around and take him to court.
Yeah, they'll say he's violating my civil rights.
And they already have done it in New Jersey and California, so don't tell me that it's not going to happen, because it's already happening. This is the worst. Parental rights will remain unchanged. No, because it's already...
We just talked about that.
A judge in Ohio terminated the rights of parents who opposed administering testosterone to their underage daughter and wanted her to go through counseling for gender dysphoria instead. And the judge in Ohio terminated the rights of those parents.
See, that is...
The Equality Act helps children in need of foster homes and adoptions.
I guess they'll say there's a lot of kids waiting there that could be adopted by...
But they're not, because they're...
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So, you just have... But this is the result of a godless culture. There's no fear of God anymore. You have... It's no wonder you have this. You've had effeminate women or effeminate men walking around in this culture for I don't know how long. And it's just this progression of godlessness, of egalitarianism to the nth degree, And when you ignore God, when you deny God, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah. You get to be God yourself, right? In your eyes. That's why in Romans chapter 3, this is the Bible part of Two Guys in the Bible.
Good. I'm glad you...
I mean, this is perfect for what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It says this, as is written, none is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. In their paths are ruin and misery. In the way of peace they have not known. Why? Because there is no fear of God before their eyes. The reason we can get to where we are with a bill like this, a law like this being introduced and probably going to be passed soon, is because there's a bunch of wicked people running around with power that have no fear of God before their eyes. Now, can this be fixed? Of course it can. But it is only the gospel that can fix this stuff. It is only the gospel that makes the fact that none is righteous, no, not one, for some actually being given righteousness. But it's the righteousness of Christ. No one seeks for God. That is true, unless the Holy Spirit comes and grants us a new heart.
Right.
All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, again, unless the Holy Spirit changes you. Not even one. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Does that not speak directly to the ongoing Holocaust we have in this nation and many other nations? Their feet are swift to shed blood. The way of peace they have not known. There is nothing in here, in this act, that brings peace to the world, brings peace to people. It brings further division, to be honest with you. And it creates, like he said, really, and like most Christians are saying, here's where we're at, Cody. We talk about this all the time. If this law passes, right, we're getting very close to the point where you and I as pastors can choose to be biblical and be fined or jailed or have our church's tax exemption status revoked, or we can choose to bow down to Caesar and be left alone by the government. Well, I know you and you know me, and we're not going to bow the knee to Caesar because he has no authority here. So we, you and I and other faithful biblical pastors, have to come to the terms with this. Pretty soon we could be fined for what we preach from our pulpits, or our churches as a whole can lose their tax exemption status, which, whatever. Or 3, we could even be thrown in jail for what we teach from the pulpit, or for possibly all of the above.
Well, we'll be just like James Coates.
Yeah. And we have to be okay with that. Like, if you're not okay with that, now, I'm not saying you want that when I say you're not okay with that. I'm saying if you're not right now, I already have it set in your mind that you are going to be biblically faithful, even if that means risking going to jail or being fined or whatever. If you're not okay with possibly facing those consequences for your biblical convictions, go ahead and find something else to do.
Paul said in 2 Timothy, look this up, chapter 3, verse 12, that all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. Like, blessed are... When you understand the Beatitudes, he said, Blessed are those who are that's just, when you become a Christian, part of the package is persecution in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not lining up and raising my hand for the persecution that I think is going to come.
Yeah.
But it's going to come.
We just have to be willing to go through it.
Yeah.
And expect it to come. I mean, it has been granted to you that for my sake you will suffer. Mm-hmm. It is a gift. Here you go. You're going to follow me. Here's your gift. Unwrap it. It's for you. Happy new birthday. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what comes with being a follower of Christ.
And so we need to pray that God would give us grace. We need to pray that
He'd give us boldness.
Boldness, so we wouldn't be cowards. We need to pray for others that for the same thing.
That, like James Coates is already facing this.
We need to support and encourage. You know what this will do? This will make a very distinct line in the sand of who's with Christ and who's not with Christ. But it will not be seen by the world as that clear.
Right.
Because the people that will go along with all this stuff will be the ones that are being the most Christ-like.
As heroes.
And we're the ones that are not being like Jesus. Because, Jesus was the most nice, tolerant person in the entire world.
Right. He never ran anyone off or rebuked anyone. I mean, he's literally his entire earthly ministry, he's rebuking people.
Yeah. So why don't I close in prayer this time? We'll pray for James.
Okay.
And we'll do that. Lord, I'm thankful just for your goodness and your mercy to us. Lord, that you've given us, by your grace, eyes to see the truth. And Lord, we once walked in darkness where we did not see the truth. We did not believe the truth. And so, Lord, we are thankful that you have graciously given us new hearts. Amen. And Lord, we lift up this brother and this pastor, James. We thank you for his boldness and his courage. And Lord, we thank you for his commitment to you thus far, to stay the course and not give in. Lord, help him. Help him to endure. Preserve and keep him. Encourage him. May he know and sense your nearness to him. And Lord, would you be with his wife and children, help them and support them. Keep from them discouragement and despair that might come. And then, Lord, I would ask that you'd give us, your people here in the West, courage, bravery, boldness, and the grace, Lord, to endure what we think might be coming. Lord, we pray for these wicked leaders in our nation. And Lord, we'd ask that you would save them, or Lord, that you would remove them.
Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen.